I keep clarifying this. I am legally the senator. I'm not formally a senator. It is just that this regime has actually refused to follow the constitution and stick to the law. So we have 68 senators because the other one was sworn in and I am still a senator. So that I have to keep clarifying so that when people ask me about my status in court and whatnot, I tell them this is the correct position. You know, this narrative that Wakili is running is not necessarily a false narrative. There have been independent states that have been invaded by outside forces, like he has correctly pointed out in Libya, what happened in Libya. But I think it is a dangerous narrative to keep using as a blanket statement when certain things are happening. Why do I say that? In Tanzania, there's so much more than just saying outsiders have come in and they want minerals and so they are trying to disrupt the peace that we have. Because if you say that, then you will also be saying in 2027, this regime that every single working Kenyan who has a payslip is tired of, you are definitely now going to start saying that these people who are voting out Ruto are actually not those people, that they are outside forces who want to come in and mine for whatever minerals. It's a very dangerous narrative. You have to listen to the people of Tanzania for you to be able to weigh, is this really an external force? And when you listen to those people, they have very many pressing issues that they are able to articulate. And that's why in so many of those polling stations, they didn't come out to vote. If this thing was as black and white as Wakili wants to put it, why was the internet shut off? If it's black and white, as it happened in Libya, we saw everything unfold in Libya. No internet was shut off, the media was running. Why was the internet shut off? Why was the whole country in a blackout in a way that us as outsiders, you know, we are not stupid. We can be able to see that, hey, listen, these are outside forces, because we would have seen, for instance, during the inauguration, during the swearing-in ceremony, we would have seen, even if not 32 million Tanzanians celebrating, we should have seen at least 1 million. We didn't have to be witnessing a swearing-in where there were no public, where the security was high. If at all you're saying these outside people have come to influence, what is happening to the 13 million voters who are so happy to give 87% of the vote to this lady? So we also sometimes have to just be, you know, this is a black and white situation. Another thing, as you have put out, they were able to count these votes in 2 days of no internet and no electricity, but they counted them. If you look at that election, normally you have all these now foreign bodies and missions who come to do the observation of the election to make sure that they write a report back to their countries because they have partner ties or whatever. We had no representation of the European Union. We had no representation of the United States. We had no representation of international bodies that observe elections. Why? Because they were shut out. Because if I'm planning to steal an election, why the hell would I want EU and US and all these people who do observation, including those democratic bodies that are international, to actually come and write that? Indeed, in this polling station, there was 0 turnout, but we are going to report millions of votes that were cast. So it is no secret. For me, I think it's very simple. Samia was actually not elected. She inherited that seat out because, you know, there was a death, and she happened to be the deputy. And this election was going to be a defining moment for Tanzania in terms of finally they get to exercise that democratic right and put in their leader. If none of these opposition shenanigans, if people were just allowed to be free, the leaders who wanted to vie for the election, and actually just they were given a fair play, would we really have these kind of things happening? So for me, it's very simple. The fact that our deputy president, Kithure Kindiki, spent our taxpayers' money, got into a flight, went over there and sat down, smiled and clapped when that woman, the president now of Tanzania, said that it is in fact foreigners, alluding that it was Kenyans who came in, alluding that it was other people who came in. They're even trying to make it a religious war between Muslims and non-Muslims. The fact that he went there with the taxpayers' money, clapped when we are being accused of having gone to disrupt a democratic process. For me, I think that is an impeachable offense. Because as the deputy president, who is supposed to be a symbol of national unity, but not only national unity, a symbol of exercising the human rights, a symbol of a person who actually, an office that is pushing Kenyans and is pushing this nation to stand by the Constitution. Just by him being there and clapping and smiling when people have been killed and murdered, and literally, let me say, aliosha, akapatia hiyo inauguration and whatever mwosho moja.
Right.
For me, it was very sad, and let me tell you something. The next regime, because in 2027 these people are not going to be in office. That regime that comes in should not only put a commission of inquiry for all the corruption, they should put a commission of inquiry for all this nonsense we have been doing, interfering with all these states out there. South Sudan, Tanzania,
thank you,
all those things.
Time for us to take a short break. When we come back, we take a look one more time at what next for Tanzania and the EAC, now that this has happened. But very briefly, before we come back and take a look at our own politics, because it's also boiling very nicely here. And I can see